If you're looking to grow a brand or a printing company in 2019, you've probably seen videos from popular YouTubers about DTG machines. They look like magic boxes that can print money. But before you run out and finance a $20,000 setup, here are 5 reasons why I sold my DTG machine and never looked back. Before we get started, I want to make it clear that I do think DTG machines have a place in the market. However, the sales guys will only tell you how great the machine is. They're not going to tell you the areas where it comes up short. And in your business, that could be the difference between a machine that allows you to revenue and profit more money and a machine that's ultimately going to cost you money. That leads us to number 1. High operating costs and time-consuming upkeep. So you may be thinking that if you finance a $20,000 setup, your payment's only going to be $300, $400, $700 a month. If you work out the math, that's not that many shirts that you have to clear at $25 or $30 a piece. But there's a lot of hidden costs that you may not be aware of that will definitely eat away from your bottom line. First of all, the ink is expensive, like $220 for 20 ounces expensive. Let's contrast that with Plastisol ink. 5 gallons shipped to me is $220. That's 32 times the ink cost, which means my print costs on a similar garment could be 6 to 7 cents, whereas yours are easily $2.10 for the exact same print. Now that may not seem that bad if your goal is to sell shirts for $25 or $30 a piece. However, it doesn't stop there. The upkeep or the maintenance cycles that you're going to have to run on this machine will consume a lot of ink. When we had our DTG machine, we ran cleaning cycles every 4 hours, whether or not we had business, whether or not the machines were running. Every day, we had to run 6 cleaning cycles for $6.23 a piece, meaning we were burning over $36 a day in cleaning cycles. That added up really quickly to over $1,000 in cleaning cycles every month. That's a hidden cost that's just going down the drain. When you're looking at how much it's going to cost you to buy this machine, you're not thinking in terms of, oh, let's just tack on another $750 to $1,000 for cleaning cycles on wasted ink. Now, when it comes to time-consuming upkeep, there are daily maintenance tasks that you have to take care of. Otherwise, you risk the print head clogging up and needing to replace it completely. That could be hundreds and hundreds of dollars just for forgetting maintenance for a day or two. In our case, daily maintenance involved taking a specialized Q-tip with some solvent and wiping off the print head and the ink capping station, because overnight, some of the ink is going to rubberize and you need to clear the capping station and the print head so that you can have a strong seal in between the two when it's running its standard maintenance cycles. The second thing we had to do was shake the bottles. The white inks contained titanium dioxide that did not want to stay emulsed in the ink. So if we didn't shake the bottles, the solids would stick to the bottom of the bottle and we would end up pulling that through our ink tubes, which would clog the print heads and cause endless problems trying to clean that out. You're talking about wasted shirts, prints that don't come out clear or crisp or are streaky, and time and money down the drains. Quite literally. Speaking of waste ink, the waste tank was the most frustrating part of it for me. We had a 16-ounce bottle that would slowly fill up throughout the day from cleaning cycles or from any function that would pull ink through the print head through the capping station. It would fill up really fast, and 16 ounces of ink is extremely expensive. You're talking close to $200, and we would dump this tank out often. Next is the pre-treating of every garment. In most cases, even on light shirts, we pre-treated our garments. What that did was force the fibers to lay down flat and allow the print to sit on top of the shirt. That's really important because if you have fibers poking up in different areas, it's going to cause the print to look cloudy or muddy, and you don't want that. So every shirt ends up being pre-treated. Well, that's a several minute setup. And even though you can pre-treat and hold garments in reserve, in our case, we were pre-treating shirts of every kind of color, every kind of style, long sleeve, short sleeve, pocketed, not pocketed. Gildan 2000 alone has 64 color options. You try stocking enough shirts to take care of all of the demand ahead of time. It's expensive and just not feasible. So most of the time, we ended up pre-treating shirts right before we start the job with garments that we ordered in specifically to fulfill that job. One thing I remember the sales guy saying is, the machine loves to run. That was the biggest truth lie I've ever heard in my life, because yes, it loves to run, but if you don't run it, it's still gonna cost you money on maintenance, and if you turn the maintenance off and leave for a weekend, you're talking about expensive downtime. So Loves to run is a polite way of saying you better run it or else. Point 2. In a shop like ours that had screen printing and DTG capabilities, the initial time savings of running a job on DTG with no setup has diminishing returns. Because of the long production time for each individual unit that you can't cut down, traditional screen printing overtakes DTG relatively quickly. Sometimes it's as few as a dozen units. On more complex photographic jobs, that may be 48 or 72 units. In our case, we found ourselves misjudging which jobs should be suited for DTG and which jobs should have just been run on a traditional screen printing press. On a traditional screen printing press, setup can take well over an hour. You have to output the artwork onto films called separations, one film for each color. Then you have to go to an emulsed screen, something that you had to coat by hand and dry out and burn the image onto that screen. If you have a halogen 500 watt work lamp, that could take 15 minutes per color. And then you have to wash those screens out, dry them, and then wait to register them on the press. This whole process, if you have a 3-color or 4-color job, could take a couple of hours. On a DTG, this whole setup process is as easy as clicking a button. You press print and have the shirt loaded and it's ready to go with no screens, no setup process, no messy chemicals to work with, and no registration. The computer handles everything. So for 1 shirt, 2 shirts, 5 shirts, 10 shirts, especially with complex photographic designs, it's almost a no-brainer to run these on DTG. However, as soon as you start stepping into larger quantity printing with customers that want 72 or 144 of the same design, you're going to be running into production limitations where traditional screen printing is not only significantly faster, it's much, much cheaper. This leads me to point 3. The high ink cost and the relatively slow production performance of a DTG machine puts a very strong emphasis on print to demand, retail settings, or low volume printing in general, while at the same time being highly unsuitable for high volume printing, especially for customers who are expecting screen printing prices. That leads me to point number 3. The high cost of ink and the slow production times means that DTG is suited for print on demand, for retail, or low volume customers. So how are you going to drive that business? Do you have an existing website that's already revenuing with a t-shirt designer? Are you able to overtake Custom Ink or Spreadshirt or any of the other places that provide print-on-demand services already? Do you have a walk-in storefront that's going to drive business? Or are you networked with a lot of different brands that want to try out different ideas from their own design team? If the answer is yes, or you're like some of the YouTubers that have 250,000 subscribers and can fill their queues with DTG-style business, fantastic. Maybe a DTG machine is right for you. However, if you have to go out and generate sales, your time is going to be best spent looking for customers that are worth $1,000, $5,000, or $10,000 per order. And orders like that aren't going to function on a DTG machine very well. You're going to be looking for people who want to run a lot of the same designs, 150, 300, 600 pieces of a simple, boring 3, 4, 5, 6 color spot design. This leads me to point number 4. The type of customer that you need for DTG business is fundamentally different than what you need for a screen printing business. Rather than assume that you can build a DTG business and then transition them into screen printing, or take your existing screen printing business and transition them into DTG, you need to understand that the DTG customer base is print on demand, 1 piece at a time, maybe 5 of the same piece, just a low volume client in general. And for my prospecting hours, I found that screen printing business was far more lucrative. If I can chase a customer that only requires 1 design for 72 or 144 pieces, then if I have to handle that design, it makes my time that much more effective. And towards the end of our owning a DTG machine, we found that the machine was only being used for prototyping and sampling, something that could easily be done digitally for a fraction of the cost. That leads me to point number 5. The cost of equipment, of labor, of ink, and customer acquisition makes the DTG business very hard to scale. The upfront equipment costs are a huge risk. If you want to get started with screen printing, it's only a few $100s for a 1-station, 4-color press and a heat gun. If you want to get started with a DTG machine, you're putting yourself on the hook for $20,000 worth of equipment. From where I stand, that's way too much of a risk for a fledgling business. Slow production times means that labor is always going to be a significant cost or factor in how much business you can generate on your first DTG machine. Then customer acquisition can be difficult. Are you relying on walk-in traffic? word of mouth, an online storefront? If so, will that be enough to let you succeed and grow to the next stage of your business? Very quickly, you'll realize that to increase production speed, you're gonna have to either buy another DTG machine, work around the clock, or hire employees to help you work around the clock, or some combination of the two. Now, that may seem like a good idea when you're right in the middle of a busy season and you have hundreds of pieces to produce, but what happens whenever you have your first dry spell? That lease payment is still going to be there, whether or not you're generating business. And that could be enough to crush your business and send you into personal bankruptcy. Because at the end of the day, production isn't perfectly distributed throughout the year. You're not going to just start a business and within 3 months have round-the-clock production running on your machine so that it's perfectly distributed. You're gonna have 10 jobs where people all want dozens of pieces this weekend by Friday, and then other weeks you'll have absolutely nothing going on. If only you could spread that out so that you're running an even number of pieces all of the time, that'd be fantastic, but that's just not how business works. So, in conclusion, should you get a DTG machine? If you are just starting out, and you look at the DTG machine as a great way to get started without having a whole lot of knowledge of the printing process, then I would say no, you definitely do not need a DTG machine. The difficulty of getting started with traditional screen printing equipment may seem like a barrier to entry, but it's really not, and you're able to scale at the pace of your customer base. Whereas a DTG machine requires that you already have an existing customer base and can hit the ground running to hit those really high operating costs. At the end of the day, there is a market for DTG machines. Small production runs, retail kiosks, walk-in traffic, or online design-it-yourself t-shirt websites will do phenomenally well with a DTG machine in ways that a regular screen printer can't compete with. So the question, should you get a DTG machine? If you're just starting out, the answer is almost certainly no way. The guys who have successful DTG businesses already have distribution in one form or another. They're networked, they have a storefront, they have an online business that's able to generate that customer base right out of the gate. And if that's not you, you will get hung with those high payments. On the flip side, you can invest a small amount of money into manual screen printing equipment and scale as you grow your customer base. This allows you to learn small, fail small, and grow from your mistakes without ever bumping into a catastrophic game-ending moment. I hope this video has been extremely informative. If you enjoy it, please like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Right now, we're sitting at a grand total of 0 subscribers and 0 views, and I really look forward to seeing what this channel turns into. Thanks, guys. Take care.